Are they with you because of loyalty, or are they with you because you're cheap or you don't charge them? And there's only one way to find out. Go back and tell them you're going to start charging them, and you'll see where loyalty really is.
Hi, it's Coach Joe Lucas, and welcome to the Magellan Network Show. My goal inside of this communication, this show, is to share with you my nearly 30 years of coaching some of the most successful financial advisors in North America. We're going to be talking about strategies, syntaxes. We're going to be bringing guests on from time to time, and I'm going to share with you what's working now. So think of this show as sort of like a little one-on-one kind of mini coaching cast, if you like, where we're going to be going in depth from time to time on strategies to help you grow your business, get more effective, become more efficient, find balance in your time management, grow your business, and quite frankly, whatever else is going on in the world today. So before we get to today's episode, I'd love for you to do a couple things for me. Number one, make sure that if you're watching this on YouTube, that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're doing the audio, make sure that you give us a review on whether Spotify or Apple. We'd really appreciate that. And quite frankly, that does help. It does matter when you rate things and like things and subscribe to things. It helps us get the word out to more of the industry. And lastly, I have a very special gift for you. Go to MagellanNetwork.net, so one word, MagellanNetwork.net, and I have for you a complimentary membership, 100% gratis, where you can tap into about between 50 and 75 hours of masterclasses, forms, tools, templates, and strategies. So please go ahead and make sure you go ahead and get that claimed. Smash the like button and subscribe. And please go ahead and leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you're on. And now, let's get to this week's episode. Hi, it's your coach, Joe Lucas, and welcome to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. This episode, I want to talk about strategies if you have a legacy type business model, i.e. transactional, non-fee, non-planning, and you want to transition right to a modern business model. Like, how do you do that? So what I'm going to do over the next 15 minutes or so is kind of give you guys some stories, some concepts, strategies that really work. Not every one of these strategies is mine. Some of my clients brought some things to me, so I want to make sure I give credit where credit's due. But the overall arching theme, and I want you to kind of hear me out on this, is first off, nobody likes change, right? And the bigger your business is in terms of household count, asset count, stuff like that. So let's say, for example, and I'm going to use probably a client of mine, probably 8-9 years ago now, maybe it's almost 10 years, I think about it, who was literally 95% transactional. And today he's about 95% advisory. Now that transition took us 36 months. So the first thing is that if you've been at this game for a while and have what we'll call a large legacy business, change is not going to happen overnight. And what happens a lot of times is advisors get so overwhelmed with the idea of doing it. So if you've got several hundred households that are transactional, several $100 million that's non-advisory, and you just look at it and you can just stare at your client list like, man, like, where do I start, right? So first of all, if you want to break it down, before you go back to the past, you have to draw a hard line. This is strategy number one. Draw a hard line in the sand and say, no more old stuff. So in other words, anybody who shows up is going to go into the new model, or we like to call the new factory. So there's a consultant, and if somebody can tell me who their name is, I'm happy to give attributes to this. One of my clients, I heard him speak at a conference, talk about old factory, new factory. And I thought it was brilliant, by the way. And so what you want to do, instead of trying to change the old factory, instead of renovating the building, this is the frame. So instead of like trying to renovate the old factory, right, why don't we just build a new one next to it, right? Brand new. And all modern, the way we want it, right? And we're going to run the old factory, new factory side by side. So anything new that shows up, any new referrals, any new prospects, so on and so forth, they're automatically new factory and new factory only. They cannot go in the old factory. Okay. So the first thing you do once you make the decision is not to go back and try to mess with the old factory yet. You build the new factory, and then anybody new comes and you let your clients know, hey, we're doing things new, all new clients, this way we're operating, right? So FYI, right? Stuff like that. Then, so you have it all laid out. Now what's next? So I'm going to use the example of my client Tony at the time. And I'm going to say probably 400 households or so, a good bit. I mean, he's rocking at $1 million a year, but you have to grind it out every month, right? It's all transactional stuff. So the first thing we did is there's two modalities, and so I'll use Tony's example. So what we decided was he had to wear two hats. He had to wear the broker transactional hat in the morning, make his money, right? Because you can't starve, right? It kind of defeats the purpose of this whole thing. So we said, look, man, you got to do daily production by noon. Like, you got to be done with that. So no fooling around, right? Just focus. And in the afternoon, we're going to put our new hat on, right? So we're going to take care of the old factory in the morning, and we're going to build out the new factory in the afternoon. So that's what we did, right? And so how we built out the new factory in the afternoon, first, like I said, all new stuff goes that way. So it's advisory or nothing. And what we did, and this is where I think a lot of advisors get, again, more head trash, is they think they got one shot at this, and therefore it has to be perfect. And we all know when you try to do something perfectly, you'd end up doing nothing, right? So what my philosophy was, I said, look, man, you got 400 households. Here's what we're going to do. I don't care. And we're not going to start with our top clients. That makes no sense, right? Our top revenue clients. We're going to look for all those clients that have assets and not generating any money or little money. And we're going to do what I call a roll-up strategy. We're going to start at household 400, 399, 300. And when I say household, I'm talking about trailing 12 numbers, okay? Revenue, not assets. So I think out of 400 and change, I think there's well over 200 households that brought in less than $500 a year of revenue. And we're talking some of these households have, high six-figure, even sometimes low seven-figure asset counts, but very little revenue. So in other words, if they told us to go pound sand, we're not really losing any money. We're losing assets. And that's the other thing. That's number two, is you forget about the asset conversation. This is where a lot of you are stuck. Oh, I've got a $100 million book of business. Who cares? If that $100 million book of business is only generating $400,000 of revenue, you have a $400,000 business. That's it. If you look at any you go to FP Transitions or any of the other valuation companies out there, they can give a rip about how much money you have under management. Everything is based on top line revenue and understanding profit, period. Okay? In fact, if you have a transactional book, you're going to get dinged pretty bad now in valuation metrics. Okay? So, not about assets. So I said, look, man, we're going to shed, I don't know, $50 or $75 million. I don't know. We'll find out. And you got to be okay with that. It doesn't matter, right? So I got his head around that. So then in the afternoon, what we would do is we started with 400, client number 400. We scheduled a meeting with them, phone, Zoom, in person. Back then it was probably more phone and in person, obviously. And we just say, hey, look, this is what we're doing. This is a new way of doing business, advisory with discretion, We laid it out. And I said, look, the gambit is, sounds good, let's do it. If you think it's the right thing to do, let's do it. I don't know, let me think about it, or hell no, right? Three things. We've got three possible outcomes in the conversation. And I said, we're going to do all 400. And I said, we're going to get maybe a third of them are going to say yes because they trust you. 400 conversations is going to take a year, right? 9 to 12 months. I think it was right around 10 months it took us. And then we're going to go back a second time of the 2/3 that didn't say yes. We're going to have this conversation again. And we're going to get some more people. And then we're going to go back a third time and we're going to have a third conversation and see who really wants to go play, right? And then we'll see what's left. And that took us probably 30 months, 33 months, something like that. And so what happened? We went from, I think at the time, 95% transactional. We were probably at that point about 70% advisory, 70%. And then over the last couple of years, we kind of cleaned it up, said goodbye to some reality, he said goodbye to some long-term clients that had some significant assets, but they were willing to pay. Like, hey, then go to the bank and put it there. Like, all we have is liability, and we have no upside, right? And don't get, and I know some of you sitting there saying, well, yeah, Joe, but they're going to pass away one day, and that is, we're selling a estate. Yeah, but there's no guarantee the kids are going to work with you, right? There's no guarantee on that. And what you're really saying is, I hope my clients die fast so I can transition to money. That's what you're really saying without saying it. That's just a terrible way to do business. All right, so we don't want to do it that way. And so you're left with a third, right, or less than a third that are just not, they're obstinate, they don't want to play, they're cheap, whatever. Then it's time to graduate them. And that's okay because you got enough advisory assets plus all the new stuff over the last couple of years. And then you're good for the rest of the rest of your career, man, you're good. You got this thing figured out. And then so what happens is, again, old factory, new factory. We start collapsing the old factory down as we're building the new factory bigger, and greater, right? But notice it's about a 30 to 36 months with that kind of mature business. He was in business at the time, 22 years. And so this is where you got to also manage your expectations. Hi, Coach Joe Lukacs here, and I'm just breaking here for a moment just to do a couple quick reminders. Number one, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast. In addition, please leave a comment or a review. Those things really matter. And share this episode with 3 of your colleagues inside the financial services space. And lastly, make sure that you go ahead and claim your free membership inside of Magellan Network. Now back to this week's episode. And I want you to think of it like a bell curve. Actually, I take that back. It's not a bell curve. It's like you don't seem like you're making a lot of progress. If you got a $200 million book of business and you're doing, let's say you can transition $1 million a month to advisory. I mean, that doesn't feel like you're moving the needle at all. But you do it, you get better, you get more momentum, you get more yeses, you get new clients, new money, right? It goes in the model. All of a sudden you go, from having like 5% advisory, now it's 15%, then it's 20%, then it's 30%, then all of a sudden it's 50-50. And when it's 50-50, now we put a little more energy, right, into again, new factory, right? Increase the momentum. So like the first year or so, it's just like, man, it's just like you're just going on faith a lot and thinking long term. And this is where, again, here's where advisors stop. They get caught up in the, I got to have it now, I need it yesterday, and they're impatient. And you got to remember something. For a lot of you, it took you decades to build this transactional business. Decades. And what I'm saying is, you just can't unwind it in 6 months. I mean, you can't. You could try it. Your kids are going to go hungry. That house payment's not going to happen. You'll be skinny, right? I don't recommend it. So number one, if you have a mature business, figure 36 months. And it's still going to be uncomfortable. But that's what's going to be necessary, right? And notice with the strategy, it's 3 conversations. So it could be 18 to 24 months between the time you start this with conversation 1 with somebody. Let's say, I don't want to do that. And then let's say a year later, they're in for an annual review. You bring it up again. I really don't want to do that, right? And so now we're 12 months, now we're 24 months, right? 3rd conversation. Hey, this is where I'm taking my business like that. It really has to be this way. Well, I don't really want to do it. I said, well, look, then I appreciate that. Do you have another advisor you can move your account to? And a lot of times when people are faced with that, like what you're saying, like, oh, you mean you won't work with me anymore until I pay a fee? Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying here, right? When they're faced with that, they will begrudgingly, half of them will do it. Now, you'll sit there and say, do I really want begrudgingly people that are begrudging, right? And I get that. But they get used to it, right? And then some will eventually not like it at all and they'll leave and stuff like that. But here's the bottom line. You cannot, and here's the one thing that I'm very, very clear on. And a lot of these clients are legacy, and I get that. But here's the thing, loyalty, the L word, right? And I've suffered from this in my career, so I get it. I lived it too. But here's the thing, and this is what I told myself. Does somebody stay with me as their coach because I'm really, really good at what I do, if not one of the best? Or because they got a good deal with me? Like, why do they stay? And I told that to one of my clients. I said this in a business planning conference recently. I said, and we're talking about optimization of revenue flow, and this is one of the conversations. And I go, a lot of you have these legacy clients that you're loyal to. Well, they gave me a shot, while I was starting out and stuff like that. Okay, but is the loyalty two-way? So in other words, are they with you
because of loyalty, or are they with you because you're cheap or you don't charge them? And there's only one way to find out. Go back and tell them you're going to start charging them, and you'll see where loyalty really is. You'll see what that L really means. And I don't want to sound negative here, but in a lot of cases, and this is one of the things you just got to get your head around. And as an advisor, you're going to be disappointed with people, right? And people that you thought you had this great relationship with, and they valued you, stuff like that. All of a sudden, you want to put 100 basis points on their account. They freak out, like, oh, I'm never going to do that. I'll take my business somewhere else. So what does that say to you? And these are some of the people that, maybe you went to their kid's wedding, or you were there when a spouse was sick, right? Or the birth of their children, or all like you could have 20-year relationships with these people, and they won't compensate you. Did you tell me if that's a functional? Forget business relationship. Is that a win-win relationship? Period. Right? Well, you have all the liability, and they're not willing to help you feed your family. Like there's no, like, where does that come from? I said this recently, and I'm going to repeat it here. I mean, a little different context to it. Like, why would they think we do work for free? Their CPA doesn't work for free. Their doctor doesn't work for free. Their lawyer definitely doesn't work for free, right? Even if it's litigation's contingency, right? Show me another business that can do free. Restaurants can't give food or meals away for free. Hotels don't give you free rooms, right? Like, think about this, right? But we should work for free. Like, doesn't that just, when you say it that way, doesn't that totally devalue what we're doing? Think about that. Doesn't it just totally devalue things? And so some of you are sitting there saying, well, okay, I get that. I said, look, could you give them a loyalty rate? Yeah. So instead of 1%, maybe it's 0.8, right? Could you do that out of loyalty? I'm fine with that. I literally am. Well, Joe, how about if they got low cost basis holdings, right? I said, fine. You want to put 25 or 35 basis points on that just so we put a wrap on it, so that way we're getting paid to park it. I'm fine with that too. Like, I'm not saying you have to go and not honor the longevity of the relationship, but what I'm saying is you can't do it for zero. And please don't tell me about 12B1 fees and stuff like that. That doesn't count. Okay? Like, it has to be advisory, right? And ideally with discretion, right? So that way you can do what you need to do. Some of you, and I say this respectfully, operate this archaic model where you're the portfolio manager and you don't have discretion. So, like, how does that work? So in other words, if we're in, I don't know, let's pick a fun topic. Let's Tesla. Hey, so if I got 100 clients in Tesla, non-discretionary, and I want to make a move because that thing bounced all over the place, right? Do you want me to be the first phone call or the 100th phone call? Like, that could take us weeks to unwind things, right? So who pays the price? The client does. Who's not happy? The client. Who's going to get blamed? You. But you put yourself in a position to have that scenario. Like, I talked to somebody recently, and I don't want to get too far on this road, that, he's now changing, thank God, but he was running his own portfolio with no discretion. I go, you can't, first off, you can't scale that. Number two is somebody is always going to be pissed off because you got to make a choice who you're going to call first. Think about that. So he's finally gone back to, he's going to run a small satellite model with discretion. He's telling people, if you don't give him discretion, then we can't do it. Right? Like, if you're going to do things, you have to do them so it may not be popular. So hear me out on this. It may not be popular for the client, but it's the right thing for the client, okay? Nobody likes to pay a fee. Who does? Show me somebody who wants to give money away. Nobody does. But it's the proper thing if you're going to do a great job for them, right? And if they don't trust you, like, well, I don't know if I, put that much, then don't be a client. Like, seriously. Hey, if you don't trust me to do the right thing for you and operate in a fiduciary manner, then we shouldn't be in business together. We just shouldn't be. And you got to draw the line, period. I can't tell you in my career how many advisors come into my world, they've been around for, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and they're still got another 25 years left in their career. Like, they can still rock it out. And they got these legacy practice models that you just can't, they're so cumbersome, so unoptimized, so unprofitable. And they make a good living with it. It's not like they're going broke, but my God, what it could be if you get things handled. So part of this here is to just give you guys, number one, if you're in this situation, how to handle it, right? Again, think long-term, small bites, 3 times. You don't need to be perfect, right? Old factory, new factory, old factory in the morning, new factory in the afternoon until you can flip it. But start. It's like, well, I've got 100 pounds to lose. Well, don't worry about losing 100 pounds today. Let's worry about what we're not putting in our mouth today and moving our body today. Like, you've got to think incrementally and long term if you're going to pull this off. So many of you have had to start and stop. Oh yeah, like intellectually, you need to do it, but you just can't get your head around execution, the plan. And I've done this, I don't know, a couple hundred times with clients over my career. And it's hard work. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, it's easy. Like, no. It's a lot of work. It's uncomfortable. It kind of sucks sometimes. You really find out who your clients truly are. That's the one cleansing effect of all this is you'll know who values you and who don't and who doesn't. And it will guarantee you it will surprise you. And that's okay because we're better off for it. So that's what I got for you guys today. So please, if you found this video valuable, make sure you like it, leave a comment below if you're doing YouTube or any of the podcast things. Forward this episode. Make sure you subscribe to our channels. MagellanNetwork.net, 30 days if you want to come work with us. We're very different than any other coaching company out there. We don't demand money or anything like that. We look for fit. We're not for everybody. Okay? So if this intrigues you, MagellanNetwork.net, step in for 30 days. You also get unlimited access in those 30 days with my AI, Coach Joe AI, which is, think of it like the Chat GTP for financial advisors, over 15,000 pages of information on how to be successful at your fingertips. So with that said, happy Friday. See you guys in 1 week.
Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Hey, if any of this resonated with you, I invite you to come to MagellanNetwork.net, and we have a powerful group coaching community of like-minded advisors. Come in for a trial. You and I will have a one-on-one conversation. Let's see if I can help elevate your game, both personally and professionally.